Morning.
Morning.
Good morning. All right. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to Malpractice Diaries with Deirdre Gilbert. I am the National Director of the National Medical Malpractice Advocacy Association, and I want to welcome Mr. Joseph Cammarata, one of the baddest attorneys I know on the other side of the country and the state that is fighting real hard for the rights of the people. Today, we are going to talk about something that's called cancel the cap. And I want to give a little background into and why Mr. is here today. First of all, there was a patient, correct? Nancy. She was a healthy
That's right.
59-year-old who had entered a hospital in October of 2015 for spinal surgery to alleviate what they call chronic back pain. And it seems that the neurosurgeon was to remove the lower disc and fuse the surrounding vertebrae. However, during that procedure, he negligently punctured an artery in Nancy's stomach, and his surgical instrument went too deep into the disc space. For 23 life-altering minutes, oxygen stopped in his brain, and as a result of the surgeon's carelessness, she was brought back to life of permanent brain damage and total dependence. Now, today, we have Nancy that lives in a semi-vegetative state, requiring 24 hours home care and daily living assistance. At the July 2019 trial, her attorneys outlined a line of out-of-pocket needs and losses that exceeded $9 million. While the jury awarded Nancy $35.6 million, Virginia's current medical malpractice cap prohibited her from recovering more than $2.2 million in compensation. As a result of this, a travesty of justice and Nancy's loved ones face a lifetime financial burden. So we're here today to talk about cancel Senate Bill 1107. Hi, Joseph. Tell us a little bit more about this legislative initiative. What is cancel the cap?
Well, let me first start out and thank you, Deirdre, and thank your organization for the great work that you do in advocating on behalf of victims of medical malpractice. It's people like you and your organization that are well respected in the community, the victims community, to try to work to better the life of those who have suffered harm through no fault of their own.
Thank you.
Nancy, Nancy is a friend, as is her husband, Sheldon, and been a neighbor of mine for over 15 years. He came to me and he told me about Nancy and the devastation that she had suffered, and asked me if I could help. And of course, I agreed to do so. And when we received that jury verdict of $35.6 million, only to realize that Nancy could only recover $2.2 million because of the limit that exists in Virginia law on a recovery that a victim can have, it just took my breath away. I just said to myself, and to Sheldon, the husband, I can't let this stand. I can't let other people fall victim or prey to this unjust and unfair medical harm system that exists in Virginia. And so I undertook to spearhead an effort to eliminate the cap, cancel the cap in Virginia. This will not benefit Nancy. It will not put more money in her pocket. It will not benefit me or any of the other lawyers that worked on the case, but it will help other people who fall victim to medical malpractice in the future in Virginia.
Okay, so this bill actually amends and reenacts, as you said, another one of the sections of the Code of Virginia. Can you give us a little bit about that? What was it amending?
Sure. Well, let me tell you that I reached out to Senator Bill Stanley, and I asked him if he would undertake legislation to eliminate the cap. He's a true hero. He's a true valiant gladiator, if you would, for people who are underserved, uh, people who are underdogs, people who are victims. And he gladly agreed to sponsor the legislation, which he has now filed, Senate Bill 1107, the Senate of the Senate of Virginia. The co-patron of that bill is another wonderful lawyer and advocate, Scott Saravel. Mr. Stanley, Senator Stanley, is a Republican. Scott Saravel is a Democrat. And so we have bipartisan support for this cap initiative, eliminate the cap initiative. But it isn't a political issue. It's really a human issue.
Yes.
And so what the bill does is that it will simply eliminate the law that says that year by year there is a certain dollar amount, a maximum dollar amount, which a person, a victim of medical negligence, can recover. So in Nancy's case, in 2019, the cap was $2.2 million. And as you said in your intro, the uncontested damages, economic damages that were presented to the jury, the evidence that was presented, and the insurance company lawyers did not object to it at all, was $9.3 million. Out of pocket medical bills in the past, in the future, life care needs. She's dependent on others for her care and her life, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the jury accepted that. And yet, she's limited to $2.2 million recovery. So what this bill would do was to end any ceiling on the amount that a jury can award or a victim can collect, if you would, in a medical malpractice case. If for the current year, the cap, anyone that's hurt within this year through June of 2021, the cap is $2.425 million. It increases every year by $15,000. And so this cap would say, no, we're going to treat medical malpractice victims the same like we would treat victims who suffer serious and grievous harm in any other type of negligence case. And let the jury determine what the appropriate and the fair compensation should be to that person that's injured.
So I want to talk just a few seconds, because in Virginia, you all have a pretty high limit as it relates to Texas. In Texas, we have a $250,000 cap, and your all's cap is bigger. For those that are listening right now and you're fighting for the Virginians, why is it so important? And I'm going to get into your questions. Why is it so important for this cap to be diminished?
Yeah, let's talk about Texas and other jurisdictions. And in order to understand what's going on here, we first have to understand what type of damages could a person collect in any type of negligence case. And if let's say it's a car accident case, well, and somebody's injured, that person is entitled to recover for their harms and losses. The harms and losses may be the out-of-pocket medical expenses that have been paid in the past, the expected medical payments that must be paid or incurred in the future, the life care needs. They might need nursing assistance. They might need accommodations in their house. They might need different medicines and different treatments and different surgeries in the future. Those are all economic losses, lost wages that they suffered in the past, lost wages that they may suffer because of their inability to work at the same level that they did before. Those are all economic losses. That's one basket, if you would. The law also permits the recovery of non-economic losses. What does that mean? That means the inconvenience, the pain, the suffering, the total disruption of one's quality of life, the pain and suffering that somebody has to endure as a result of the harm that they suffered as a result of somebody else's negligence. And so the law provides that there is, you can get, assuming the jury accepts it, you can get your economic losses. And in addition, the law says the jury can make a determination as to what appropriate amount should be awarded for those non-economic losses, those intangible things. What is the impact on a person's quality of life when they are no longer able to care and think for themselves but have to rely on somebody else? Well, what is it? What's that value? And we trust the jury to make everyday decisions on that subject. We trust juries to handle matters in criminal and civil cases of life, liberty, property.
Right.
They handle all those cases. But somehow, the legislature in Virginia says, well, for medical malpractice cases, well, they're not that smart. The juries, we can't trust them for that. Oh, no. Why? Because we have to protect insurance companies. That's what this is all about. This bill protects the profits of insurance companies at the expense of the victims of medical malpractice. Now, back to your question. In terms of how does this work? Texas.
Yes.
I didn't forget the question. But
That's
the thing
okay.
is this. Texas, I get fired up. Okay? I just get fired
up because I like that. Yes.
This is unfair, unjust, and we're going to dig a little deeper. We have the time, and I got to bring out some other points. But the fact of the matter is Texas, as I understand the law in Texas, is that they have no cap on economic damages. The cap relates to non-economic damages. Okay?
Yes.
So in Nancy's case, if we were in Texas, for example, she would have gotten all of her economic damages, $9.3 million, and some amount, whatever the state law was, for non-economic damages. Okay? And so she would have gotten some amount in excess of $9.3 million under Texas's rubric, Texas's formula. Here in Virginia, there's one cap that serves as a ceiling on all the damages that a victim suffers in a medical malpractice case. And that cap for Nancy's, to Nancy's detriment, and I might add, to the detriment of the taxpayers of Virginia, is $2.2 million. Now, why is it to the detriment of the taxpayers of Virginia? Well, who do you think is going to pay for this care? Who? Nancy is going to be bankrupt. She needs $9.3 million just to break even. Forget quality of life issues. That's just to break even. That's just to exist. That's just to live. Well, the jury recovery is only $2.2 million. And, there were expenses to try that case. There are attorney's fees. There are medical liens that had to be paid back. And so the recovery for Nancy is just a fraction of what that $2.2 million. And who pays it? Who pays for that care in the future? Well, the taxpayers of Virginia. The taxpayers who had nothing to do with the harm that Nancy suffered. Through the Medicaid system, the taxpayers have to pay for Nancy's care. Now, this is when you have the means for it to be paid by insurance companies. These insurance companies, all they like to do is to collect premiums and don't pay claims. Okay? Don't pay
Okay,
claims.
right. Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about Virginia insurance companies. I have a report here. Okay? I have a report from the National Association of Insurance Commissioners that surveyed the United States, and each state in the United States, the medical professional liability insurance for the calendar years 2005 to 2005 to 2019, 2019. And I have here in Virginia what those numbers are. And it shows that on average, over those 14 years, Virginia insurance companies collected double the premiums than the claims that they had to pay out. So they made over 51% profit at the expense of victims of medical malpractice. Sometimes it was so high, it was up to 70%. So what do we have here? This bill is a Insurance Company Protection Act. Okay? What do we do to protect the insurance company? Now, is this fair? Is this right? Is this just in our system? Our system says that we all are equal before the bar of justice, that no one's above the law,
Right.
that justice is blind. Justice is blind. You know, you've got that picture of Lady Justice holding the scales with a scarf or something over her eyes. But when it comes to insurance companies, they take a peek. All right, who's there? Insurance companies? All right. Well, we're going to tip the scales in their favor now. That's not the way it's supposed to work. That's not the way it's supposed to work. But it is working that way, and I'm going to do something about it. Senator Bill Stanley's going to do something about it. Senator Scott Surville's going to do something about it, and we're going to change the culture. How can you vote against Nancy? How can you vote against Nancy?
Thank you. Well, you're doing a great job. I love your passion because we don't have very much of that as it relates to those that have been harmed by medical error. I don't think the nation knows how important this subject is. It's a no subject. It's it's a quiet agenda, and it is time to cancel the cap across the country. I believe this is something that needs to be done all across the country where we're not having to deal with this at all. So I want to know your first question here is, how did you get involved with your efforts to remove this cap? I know you said you knew Nancy. Why is it so important for you for this? Because it's not just Nancy's story, because Nancy is just one of the stories that you have seen and heard of.
Well, but for Nancy, it wouldn't have been called to my attention. And when I wanted to be a lawyer because I wanted to help people solve problems and help them better their life. And when I became aware of this injustice, I had to do something. I'm a lawyer. I advocate for what's right in society. I try to help people. I can't just sit by and watch this injustice. And so I wanted to do something about it. We have people, great people in history, that have stood up for something, civil rights, women's rights, and act to do something that's meaningful for the lives of others. And I want to do that. And that's why I'm doing it. And there's no other reason. But as a lawyer, I feel in my heart and in my soul, I have a responsibility to help others and to balance the scales and to achieve justice for people that don't really have a voice. And that's how I got involved.
And I thank you, because that is exactly what the organization is about. It's about those that do not have a voice. And you are giving that voice for just not only Nancy, like you said, Nancy won't benefit for this. And that's a
No,
sad situation.
not a penny.
She will, not a penny. And that's heartbreaking, I'm sure, for her family, to have to know that, this bill is for her, but the bill is not for her, and the justice, we will know that justice will prevail. So we
That's
also
right.
know now, let's talk about the current Virginia law regarding recovery. I know the caps are unjust for the medical malpractice victims, and you talked about economic and non-economic damages. Can you give me just a little bit more about, you spoke about economic, and is that based on a person's having a job? Um, what is that calculation? What does that mean when we
Yeah,
say economic?
sure. What economic means is it capable of being determined with some degree of accuracy. So, for example, Nancy was in the hospital for a considerable period of time. She needed follow-up medical care. So, as of the time of the jury, we calculated all of those medical bills, and came up to a dollar amount, and presented that as an past medical bills that she incurred before the date of the trial. That's an economic. That's an out of pocket, meaning you got to write a check. Somebody's got to be paid. There's a loss.
Okay.
Nancy was working. She had a high level job at the CIA. She was a Russian analyst, well regarded. She was involved in the Chernobyl nuclear disaster on behalf of the United States. She helped with the treaty between India and Pakistan, representing the interests of the nuclear treaty on behalf of Pakistan, and India representing the interests of the United States. And so she had a very nice job. She enjoyed it. And as a result of this tragedy, she lost time from work. And so that's a loss. As a result of this tragedy, she will lose time in the future. She can't earn that money that she would have otherwise earned had she been able to go to work. So that's another economic loss. In addition, back to the medical expenses, there are needs that Nancy has for the rest of her life that are capable of being calculated. Doctor treatments, doctor visits, 24-hour care, 7 days a week. I mean, there is a period of time, quite frankly, and Sheldon is a saint. Sheldon, her husband, is a saint, and every time I think about what he does and how he does it with such good humor and grace, I only wish I could be half as good as him if I was faced with a similar tragedy. He comes home from work about 6 o'clock, and he's the caregiver for Nancy from 6 till about 7 or 8 in the morning when he has to go back to work. And so there are those expenses. So those are the economic losses that a jury considers, evaluates, and says, yes, are these real losses? Are these something that we should accept? And in Nancy's case, those losses were $9.3 million that I said to you before. The insurance company lawyers did not say a peep, didn't say a penny, a dollar. Nothing was wrong with them. Okay? They knew that Nancy was entitled to the $9.3 million. But they knew also that Their worst day in court is $2.2 million. Hey, Cammarata could stand on his head, do whatever he wants to do. He could have gotten a $100 million verdict. But guess what? Too bad. Bad for you, Nancy. Good for us, insurance companies, because we like to collect those premiums and we don't want to pay claims. Cap amount you're going to get is $2.2 million.
Okay.
They know. And what does this do? What does this do? This forces people to go to trial because insurance companies don't want to settle. See, in these catastrophic cases, they figure, well, what do we got to lose? We've got reserved the money. We know we put this money aside. We know what it's going to be. And we force the victim to go to trial. Why? The insurance company says, well, you know, there's no guarantee in life except death and taxes. So what we'll do is we'll hope that we can convince one juror. All you need is one in Virginia. 1 out of 6 or 8. The plaintiff, the victim's got to convince all 8 unanimously. All the insurance companies got to do is convince one.
Okay.
And if they convince one, the victim doesn't recover anything. So they say, well, you know, maybe this will be good. Maybe we'll take our chance, but maybe, let's see, 20% of the time we win, 25% of the time we win. Maybe this will be the time. So they force Nancy to go to trial because they have no incentive to settle. And what does this do? What's a byproduct of that? A byproduct of that is that it clogs the judicial system that's already overburdened with other cases. If there was no cap, there'd be a real discussion about risk.
Right.
Now, what is it that we, the insurance company, have to lose? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Nancy has nothing to lose. Her life is over. Okay? She's devastated. But what do we have to lose as an insurance company? Now you'll have a real exchange, a discussion. Hey, boy, we might lose a lot of money. So we better get Cammarata off our back. Okay? What are we going to do? So, but here with a cap, there is no such discussion. They say, go try it. Good luck. Good luck to you. See if you win. But we might win 20% of the time, 25% of the time. And if we, the insurance company, wins, we saved that money. More premiums that we collected, and we don't have to pay. So, you know, that's the problem here. There's a disincentive to settle, and it forces people to go to trial. Now, it's a very small percentage of medical malpractice cases that are being advanced or going forward that have catastrophic injuries. It's a small percentage. Most of them are under the cap. So we're talking about disenfranchising those people that need the money the most. Okay? Even if it's the 5%, 10% of all the cases are cases like Nancy's that exceed the cap, well, it's not enough to say, well, it's just a small percentage, because for Nancy, it's 100%. It's all her case. And so we have situations where the situation here in Virginia is that people that are of lower socioeconomic status in society suffer the greatest. Why? Because they can't afford the substantial harms and losses. They can't sustain it.
Right.
Whereas somebody who's in a higher economic strata is not poor, is not in a group that is so burdened economically or socially. They can better afford it. And so disproportionately, these caps have a negative impact on those groups that can ill afford the substantial harm. And so that's another reason why this cap is so bad for society as a whole. And we're talking about, You may have another question. I'll stop. Go ahead. Because
But that's okay because when you to me, I don't believe that there is that medical practice actually cares about who you are at this point. And talking about Nancy's case, uh, very experienced lady, great job, making a lot of money, doing well for herself. So it really doesn't matter when medical malpractice comes to play. I am of the mindset, like you, is that these insurance companies know that there is no incentive to settle. There's nothing there. And I want people to know, especially when you're talking about the stories about the economic and non-economic damages here, we are in need of some change. Joseph, we need this change and we need it quick because we're suffering here all across the country. I know that as an attorney and as the other attorney, Chip Wagner, that also does exactly what you do here and who have come aboard to fight for legislation like this, is that they think of you all as the bad guys, that you are always out for money. And I am wondering, why is it that on their end they can save insurance companies money, but on your end you can't fight for your clients? And that is not a good thing.
well,
You know?
the system permits the ability of any victim of negligence in a car crash, tractor trailer crash, medical malpractice, the ability to hire a
Yes.
lawyer on a contingent fee. What that means is if there's a recovery, then the lawyer gets paid. And so the risk is borne by the lawyer. The expenses are paid by the lawyer. And it provides an opportunity for a victim of any type of negligence to hire the best lawyer that they can, because it doesn't initially cost them any money. And so
Right.
we lawyers are in the justice business. Okay. We're out to obtain justice. We're out to protect those that are injured through no fault of their own. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't deserve the harms and the losses that they suffered at the hands of somebody who was negligent. That negligent tractor trailer driver that crossed into their lane and knocked them off the road.
Mhm.
That negligent driver that hits that poor woman crossing the street. That negligent doctor that goes too far in disc space and cuts Nancy's artery and makes her
Yeah.
totally dependent on somebody else's care. And so there's nothing wrong with having a lawsuit brought in a medical malpractice case. And there are many, many safeguards in place for these types of lawsuits to prevent frivolous lawsuits. In other words, lawsuits that have no
Right.
merit. Now, first of all, a lawyer, any lawyer worth their salt, is not going to be bringing a lawsuit that has no merit because it's going to get you nowhere. Okay?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
secondly, most states like Virginia have a rule that before you can file a medical malpractice case, you have to have the case reviewed by some independent expert to determine whether or not the doctor or the hospital that that the victim is intending to sue actually did commit malpractice. And so there's a safeguard in place. This is not just some creation out of the sky. Well, I think there's some harm. Well, you may think it, but you got to take it to an expert, let them evaluate it, and make a determination as to whether or not this is bona fide, this is legitimate. And then, and only then, can the lawsuit be filed. And so this is the way the system works. But the fact of the matter is this is like the sky is falling in, Chicken Little, whatever it is. and that my God, doctors
Yeah.
are going to be run out of business. My God,
No.
premiums are going to go up. I mean, really, are we still there? Do we have to go through that again? That same nonsense, that same unfounded garbage.
Been there for a long time. Yeah,
That's what
they've
I'm saying.
been
They
there for
keep
a long
banging the
time.
same drum. They keep banging the same
Yeah.
drum. And in states where there are caps, okay, states where there are caps, the premiums have gone up. States where there are no caps on economic damages, the premiums have gone down. So there is no tie-in. And here in Virginia, I read from this report that Virginia insurers, the bad insurance companies, malpractice insurance companies, are making profit on average of 50%, 51% of the premiums they charge. That means they charge a lot more. And so this argument is not well founded in terms of insurance companies. They're going to raise the premiums. It's like car insurance, for God's sake. If you want to buy more insurance, you buy more insurance. Yeah, the premium goes up relative to the amount of insurance you want to pay. And we don't have a problem with car insurance. We don't have a problem with tractor trailer insurance. And we don't have a problem with medical malpractice insurance. The only problem that anybody sees is the insurance company, the malpractice insurance company, because they want to make more money. They want to collect the premiums and not pay the claims. And so that's why it's a problem for them. And that's why they want to translate that problem into a societal problem. They want to say, well, wait a minute. You can't, the doctors, you can't touch the doctors. Well, I got to tell you, most doctors, 90 some odd percent or more, have no medical problems, in medical malpractice problems. It's
Absolutely.
the few. It's the few that do. And the few that do should not be in a protected class. We don't have a caste system. Some members of society, because of power, privilege, position, have a better place. Oh, they get a pass. Well, wait a minute. They get a pass. We don't have that. We don't prefer one group over the other. We shouldn't.
We shouldn't.
Because you're putting everybody at a disadvantage. You're providing everybody else at a disadvantage. If somebody suffers the same, let's assume two people suffer the same harm. One is injured by a tractor trailer driver. One is injured in a medical malpractice case. Same harm, same damages. Okay? Does the person who suffered the malpractice, medical malpractice, feel pain any differently than the person who suffered the same harm in a tractor trailer incident? No. Should they be treated differently? No. Does the person who suffered that same harm in a tractor trailer accident get fully compensated as the jury determines what's fair and full compensation? What's full justice? Yes. That same harm, when you go against in a medical malpractice case, do you get the same harm available by a jury? No. Is that fair? Is that just?
No.
And who does it protect? It protects the insurance companies. That's what this is. This is the Insurance Company Protection Act. And it's time to cancel the cap. Eliminate the cap.
Let's eliminate the cap.
Restore justice. Full and complete justice for every member of society. Every member of society. And so that we can use and build on the foundation that our country was founded on. That we are equal when it comes to justice. that no one is above the law. No one is below the law. And so let's make justice truly blind, okay? As opposed to picking up
Absolutely.
the veil and letting her take a peek.
So let's talk about your next steps. What are your next steps for this bill? Now
My
that
next
you
step,
have
yeah,
it, what's the next steps?
next step is we're going to win it. The next
Okay.
step is that the cap
Yeah.
is going to be eliminated in Virginia. Okay, that's the next step. I've got a great patron. The citizens of Virginia have a great patron in Bill Stanley, Senator Bill Stanley, who is passionate about bringing this to a successful conclusion. He knows full well of the unjust and unfair burden that it places on victims of medical malpractice at the expense, of these poor victims that benefits the insurance company. And so he's going to act with the assistance of Senator Scott Survell, to get this bill passed. I'm confident that with those two and with the support of others, that this bill will be successful. In addition, we're going to gather grassroots support to let people know, let the legislators know that this is the right thing to do and the right time to do it now. This is not a bill against doctors. This is not a bill against doctors. We like doctors. This is a bill that says that we all are equal before the bar of justice, that no one, because of power, position, money, gets a better position, gets a pass. Don't we all talk about accountability and responsibility? If you do harm, don't we tell our young children, hey, wait a minute, you got to accept responsibility. You gotta be held accountable. You gotta do right. But Johnny, if you grow up to be a doctor, hey, don't worry about it. You don't have to accept all the responsibility or all the accountability. You get a pass because you're backed up by big, greedy insurance companies. That's not right.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
That's not right. No, it's not. And I'm ready. I think it is going to pass. And we're ready for that. So let's talk about what can people do to support this effort. What do you want people to do?
Well, I want people to go to cancelthecap.com. We're putting I'm putting a website together so that serves as a resource page for people to identify what the issues are and how they can be helpful. Most immediate thing is that people should contact their legislators, those people in the Senate. That's where it's going to start. It's going to start in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we got to get it out of committee. So you identify this, and it's going to be on the webpage. Identify the Senate Judiciary members. Contact those members and say, "Listen, I'm a real person, and this is unfair. We want you to protect the victims and not protect insurance companies." You got to think about it. So we want people to do that. And the people should understand and recognize that if, God forbid, this happens to them or a loved one, their life will be forever changed. Now, it's not just the victim that has their life turned upside down, but it's the family members. It's those that are dependent on that victim. So the family members now become the caretakers. Okay?
Yes.
And that's not what anybody should have to do. And so contact your legislators. Start with the Senate, Judiciary Committee. Let the senators know. Otherwise, contact the members of the House, on the House side. Same thing. Judiciary Committee there. The members of the House, send them an email. Ring the telephone. Ring the phone off the hook. to clog the email baskets. Okay, let them know that
Yes.
that we've had enough.
So I know you have follow hashtag cancel the cap VA Virginia, and you can do that on all social media. Include that hashtag in all of your posts. I know you want them to also spread the word to the personal networks, to friends and family. I think one of the best things that to get out of this is that this does not have a target, just one person, or it's everybody, even those that are working in the legislature, a legislative leader. Uh, they can be a part of being one of those victims at any given time.
Right.
So it doesn't care who who it is. And I believe it is time right now for that change. So give us something real quick, Joseph, can they contact you with any more questions about this? Can we take this all across the country? How can we get this where we can get it all across the country? And I want to
Well,
use National Medical Malpractice Advocacy Association to try to, let's work this. Let's do this because it's time.
I agree, and here again, as I said at the outset, you, Deirdre, and your organization to be commended to
Mhm.
give voice to people that don't have a voice, to advocate tirelessly for victims of medical malpractice, and that is so great. It's immeasurable what the benefit is, and thank you for doing that, and thank you for having me, giving me an opportunity to talk about what we're doing in Virginia. Now, to
Thank you.
answer you, how can they contact me? Well, I'm going to give you my email, and I could give you my cell phone number. But
Okay.
my email is Joe at dc hyphen or dc dash law.net. Joe at dc dash law.net. They can
Okay.
go to cancelthecap.com as well.
Okay.
And look, I can be easily found at my law office, which is 202 in Washington, D.C., 202-659-8600. In addition, you want to call me directly, that's fine. 202-329-6643. 202-329-6643 is my cell phone. So I
Thank you.
welcome the support, but I'm happy to speak on this again.
Okay.
But the moment is now in Virginia, and the reason I say that is this: the legislature goes back into session on January 13th, and they only sit. We have a legislative body that only sits for a small period of time, and here this session is only 30 days.
Wow.
So they
Okay.
got to get it done within the 30 days. They're working. I mean, these people, I got to tell you, these legislators, they're paid peanuts, $10,000 a year or something, and they're working all the time.
Mhm.
And yet they get $10,000, but they're in session
30 days.
for 30 days. So
Okay.
the time crunch is short. So you got to act now. You got to get to the legislators now,
Now.
because I can tell you, I'm aware that the big bad greedy insurance companies are already mobilizing. They've already contacted all the senators, all
Yes.
the House people, and said, "Hey, you got to protect the doctors. How could you do this to the doctors? How
Yes.
could the premiums are going to go up?" We've been through it. I'm not going to go through it again. So they need to hear from real people, not insurance company shrills. Okay,
Yes.
that's it. Real people that say, "I don't want this to happen to me." Because
Yes.
God forbid it happens to me, or it happens to my wife, or it happens to my girlfriend, or it happens to my boyfriend, whatever it is,
Yes.
my life will be a disaster. And so
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. So please act. Don't wait. Do something about it. Send an email. Pick up the phone. We'll have all the contact information. Call. Say, hey, this is bad. Call Senate Bill
Yeah.
1107.
All right
Senate
now.
Bill 1107. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kendra,
So,
you are great. Thank you very, very
thank
much.
you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this was a special edition of Malpractice Diaries. And Joseph, thank you for what you're doing in Virginia, Washington, D.C., and all across this country. We want to say thank you again. Let's cancel the cap. And hey, tune in. We will see you soon. And come back with the great news
We're
that
coming back
cancel
with
the
good news.
cap. Thank
We're
you.
coming back with news because we're in it and
We're
we're
in
going
it.
to win it.
We're
That's
going
it.
to win it. Oh, I like that. We're in it and we're going to win it. All
That's
right.
right.
Thank you, Joseph. And you
Thank
all
you.
have a great day. Thank you for tuning in and have
Thank
a great day. Bye bye.
you. Bye-bye.